Oh, it looks like we're live right now.
Okay.
Yay! Excellent.
Yay.
Awesome. Yeah. Hi, everybody. This is such an awesome panel with such a rock star roster of writers here, and I'm so excited that I get to be the moderator today. So, yeah, my name's Eric Smith. I'm a literary agent and a young adult author. My books are also published with Inkyard Press with the rest of the wonderful writers who are here right now. I'm joined by Dana L. Davis with Grandison, Tashie Bhuiyan, and I believe Abigail Johnson will be joining us a little bit later. We're waiting for her to pop on. So why don't we go around really quick? Everyone introduce yourselves and maybe tell us a little bit about your latest book. Oh wait, and I'm the moderator, so I should like point and say like who should go. So Tashie, you're in my corner up here, so why don't you go first?
Okay. Hi, I'm Tashie Bhuiyan. I'm the author of Counting Down with You, and it's a YA contemporary which follows Karina Ahmed after her parents go abroad to Bangladesh for 4 weeks, and she ends up in a fake dating facade with the bad boy of her high school, and chaos ensues. So,
Awesome. And Dana?
Hey, my name's Dana L. Davis. I'm an actress and a young adult author. My latest book is Romeo Juliet, and it's the story of a young high school phenom who thinks she's about to get the lead in a new musical on Broadway called Romeo Juliet, but she finds out at the last minute that she's actually being cast as the understudy, and there's a big superstar who's been cast as the lead. And so this is her journey as the understory, falling for the lead guy. So.
Welcome. And Whitney.
I'm Whitney D. Grandison, author of Right Side of Reckless. It follows Guillermo Lozano, a former bad boy trying to right his wrongs, and a good girl, Reagan London, trying to find her voice. And together they meet at a community center, and it's forbidden love and finding yourself and growing as a teenager too. Teen angst and love.
Awesome. Welcome. So the first question I want to ask is a popular one that I feel like I hear at like every bookstore and every event ever, and that is, what draws you to writing young adult romance? Like, what is it about stories about teenagers falling in love that draws you to that particular category of YA?
I like that it's, uncertain, there's teen angst, it's hopeful, and it's like the beginning of their lives, really, kind of. So I like that aspect of YA love stories.
Growing up, being a big reader, I always felt like the books that featured people of color were super heavy material that dealt with like a person of color navigating their way through like racial inequality. And so I really wanted to write YA to sort of like do my part with normalizing the Black experience. Whereas it doesn't always have to be so heavy. Sometimes we can, fall in love and argue with our parents and siblings. And so that's sort of what drew me to writing YA.
yeah. For me, I think for writing YA romance, I like the idea of like, especially for like young POC, like showing them that they're lovable. And especially because I feel like in a lot of situations, like especially like in immigrant families, like a lot of love can be conditional, but like romantic love is a choice, and it's like you get to choose who you love, and you have that agency in that romance when you're just like a little kid. And so I find like that there's a lot of good energy in that, good vibes.
I love these answers. Like it's something that I feel like I stumble on a lot in my agent life, working in the publishing industry side of things, that actively seeking out joyful stories for marginalized characters. It's just so important. And I'm so happy that everyone here is doing that work. It makes me so happy. And we've got like a lot of wonderful tropes being explored in this particular video chat, right? Like, so Tashie, you have fake dating. Whitney has like the bad boy, like good girl sort of thing going on. Abigail, who's not here right now but will be, has like a really great forced proximity story going on in what is it? The weekend story. Every other weekend. There it is. Up on That's why I have you guys up there. It helps me out when we're talking. And Dana, we have like insta love and like fame romance going on. So what is your favorite romance trope? Like, was it the one you explored recently? Is there another one? And what is it you love about it?
I like enemies to lovers. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I like enemies to lovers and forbidden love. With enemies to lovers, you have like usually feuding, banter, hatred. I like a little bit of the spice of that for me.
I love enemies to lovers as well, but I really love the idea of found family romantically, like that idea that you can find family in your romantic partner, and that you get to like find that sense of like, you know, like if you haven't always had it, because a lot of people don't have like great familial relationships. So I love the idea of like found family in romance.
I of course love insta love because I think people give it a hard time. People want to like roll their eyes at insta love, but it happens in our lives, and I think it's such a fun thing to escape into, because life can be so challenging and we're all just like working through some heavy stuff. And I think the thought of insta love, or this feeling, is so overwhelming and so all consuming. It's such a safe, fun thing to escape into. So I do like insta love. So
yeah, I'm a huge insta love fan. I don't know why people tend to rag on it a little bit, because like it's real. Like when you're a teenager, you meet someone and it's just like, this is my person. I'm gonna be with this person forever. The feelings are so big.
forever.
You know? And I feel like that's one of the reasons I like writing YA romance a little bit, because of those like huge immediate feelings. Like everything feels so overwhelming, and
everything is so big when you're a teenager.
Dramatic, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. And like that leads me to my next question here. It's like I feel like you hear sometimes a lot of like literary discourse about YA contemporary, and like how they're like quiet stories, you know, and like the stakes are soft and it's quiet, but like when you're writing about romance, you know, like those stakes feel so huge, right? It feels like world ending if you don't, you know, get the boy or the girl or whatever the romantic interest might be there. So how do you keep those stakes heightened in your own work, you know, when it's not just about the relationship or just about the relationship?
Maybe like an obstacle, like a parent saying, no, you can't have that guy or that girl. And then you feel like a roadblock is in your way. So yeah, feelings there, you know, having an obstacle or a parent or a reason why you can't have them helps a lot too.
Absolutely.
I feel like in my personal, I always like to be like a more internalized like obstacle. Like a lot of my characters will have like anxiety or depression, and like having to kind of overcome that and be okay with themselves before they can be with their love interest, and their love interest like understanding that and like overcoming that together, and like understanding and having like mutual just like care for one another. I feel like that's good.
I guess maybe I don't believe in like small obstacles. I've always been the kind of person that if you have something that's going on and it's causing you angst and worry, then I'm right there with you. Like, how can we figure this out? And I think as a parent, my daughter's 10 right now, and she brings things to me like, Mommy, my friend hasn't texted me back in like a week. And I'm like, oh, let's handle this. Like, it's such a big deal for her. And so it becomes a big deal for me.
How do you handle that?
I know, exactly. I'm like, I'm still trying to navigate my way through like my friends not texting me back. But yeah, I guess I don't believe in small stakes. I believe like everything has meaning and importance if it has meaning and importance to you. So
I love that. And also that I feel like that shows like an extra layer of like respect for your audience, right? For your teen readers, where like as adults who are writing these stories, we're not minimizing the stakes that they're feeling, right? Like this big heavy issue that's really important to them, that to us as grown-ups we're just kind of like, oh, I don't know, you know, you'll be fine, you'll make another friend, you'll make another person. Like
right,
that's not how it is, right? Like it feels like your world is ending, and all these answers
matters.
So Tashie, when it comes to writing romance, right? Your fake dating book, I feel like it reads like a hug. I absolutely love it. But there are so many other relationships that are so key to your story. And you talked about this a little bit earlier about like found families and all of that. And in your story, we have the family, we have the clashing that's going on there. We have the wonderful like girl gang that our main character has. And I feel like it all complements the romance arc so perfectly. And can you tell us a little bit? Let's ask a craft question about balancing all of that. Like, how do you? I don't know. How do you do that?
I think for me, I like to keep like the romance almost separate from like the main like conflict and antagonism for YA contemporary specifically. Like I feel like a lot of times in my books, the main conflict is with the main character and her family because she may not have like the best relationship with them. And so in doing that, I like don't want to make the romance the problem with the family because I feel like for me, I'd rather have like this main character who's dealing with these things and like figuring out her own story, but it doesn't have to revolve around the romance aspect of it. Like I want almost like if you're suffering so much with your family, you should get to be a little happy with like this little boy. Like, like you should get like a little moment of like serotonin. Like you should be able to escape from like what's rough and struggling and like being able to find hope in someone else. So I think for me, I try to like keep that separate and like make sure that there's like happy moments intertwined with like the sadder moments and that feeling of like hope at the end of it all. I feel like that's like what my kind of mentality is when writing YA romance.
Awesome. I love that. And, I think that ties a bit into what Whitney was saying earlier about like having those other stories and those other stakes tied into the romantic story there. Those B and C plots are so important.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's good to have like a good cast of supporting characters that are there for whatever reason you need them.
Do you think, and I'm curious what your experience has been like with this book coming out? Like, has anyone demanded to see like a novel from the perspective of, anyone in the girl gang, any of the friends?
No, but a lot of people have wanted like a spin-off of like one of the girl gang and like Ace's brother. And I'm like, guys, I can't do it, but I respect that you want it. That'll be like all my TikTok comments. They're like, Cora Xander when? And I'm like, besties, I don't know.
See, so Dana, so in your latest, we have this retelling that's blended with musicals, which I love. I'm a musical nerd. And we have the celebrity and the fame stuff going on. We have all this fierce competition. We have this romance that's burning through the story. What drew you to combine like Romeo and Juliet for the play, like in this story? I'm always very curious when I see a writer has taken a play or a musical or whatever and put it in their book. Like I don't know if any of you have read Lauren Gibaldi's This Tiny Perfect World, but like the book mirrors the Glass Menagerie as you're reading it. I thought it was really, really cool. So why Romeo and Juliet?
Well, I think I became like, at the time when I was writing this, I became obsessed with the concept of reincarnation and the concept that we're not really victims to the situations that we're in and like what we're working through, but rather it's like learning experiences. And maybe we'll have a chance to kind of like right our wrongs or like a redo. And so I started thinking about like sort of literary tragedies where bad mistakes were made and not as a work of art, but like the characters. And so I started thinking about, of course, like the worst literary tragedies, which Romeo and Juliet, like it can't get much worse than that. And so I was just sort of thinking what it would be like for them to have a second chance. And with thinking of them being reborn, thinking of Juliet being reborn as a young Black girl was just like too good to like pass up. And also I grew up doing musical theater, and I just wanted to sort of combine these things, musical theater and love and everything that happens when you're working so closely with people. I mean, as an actor, sometimes I work like 14-hour days. I work 16-hour days. When you're doing a play or a musical, you work, 6 or 7 hour days. I mean, you have this really tight connection. This amazing relationship happens with everyone, like the crew, when the show ends or the movie ends and you have like 132 people that you've sort of like become like best friends with. And so I wanted to sort of tell that story of being in this like exclusive situation and the relationships that happen while you're doing these things. So that was sort of my thought pattern behind it all.
Do you feel like you're going to explore like more of the acting side of your life in your writing in like future books?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's all art. It's all telling stories. If I'm telling stories in front of a camera or if I'm writing. So yeah, absolutely.
I'm also curious, like, what drew you to writing young adult books? Because I know we talked about like wanting to see more joy in the stories there, but what took you from acting like into the writing?
Yeah, I really felt like the writers were not doing a great job with Black women. And I felt like I got so many auditions where the character was just a caricature. The character was always sassy. She was always, from some sort of, hood. She was always talking in a way that didn't represent me. I grew up in Iowa. I carried like a viola to school. Like I grew up like listening to musical theater. Like Jekyll and Hyde was like my favorite tape. I'm old, so it was a tape back then. But like I loved Jekyll and Hyde. And so I get these auditions and I'm like, this really doesn't represent Black women so well. And so I just got tired of complaining about it. I got tired of complaining to my agents and I got tired of complaining to my friends and my family. And I was like, I really want to be the change that I wish to see in the world. And somebody has to step up and say, hey, we have to do a better job of writing people of color. Like our experiences are so unique and so different. We just can't have like one story. And so that's sort of what made me jump on board to writing YA, because I mean, what better place to start than with kids, right? Because that's when we're forming like who we are and how we feel. And so, yeah, that's sort of what led me to start writing.
Awesome. Love that journey. What about everybody else? Now I'm curious. What has everyone else's writing YA romance journey been like? Like, how did you find yourself drawn to sitting down at your computer and writing that first novel?
I was always a big reader, and most of the books I would buy or read would be about white teenagers. And I went to a school that was predominantly of color. We had Black people, we had Asians, Latinos, and I wanted to see my world in teen books. That's what really inspired me the most.
Yeah, I feel like I just grew up writing like fan fiction, and then I was like, you know what, I can get paid for this. And so I tried writing original novels, and I've always been like a huge YA reader. And so in college, I was like, you know what? Maybe I could just try to query. Who would it hurt? And now we're here.
Awesome. If you want to drop your AO3 link in the chat later.
Absolutely not. Nobody ever needs to see that. No, nobody needs to see that. Does not need to be perceived.
So Whitney, so in right side, right side of right? No, I'm messing that title up. No, right side of reckless. There it is. Right side of reckless. We meet these two characters that couldn't be more different. We have the bad boy with the good girl. We have Guillermo who's like trying to like reinvent himself. And then in a love-hate thing, we have Tyson who came from like this troubled past who's also trying to like find himself again. And I'm so curious, what draws you to write such like layered characters like these boys in your romances, and how do you do it? Like I feel like all of your love interests and your characters are so complex.
I feel like it's more realistic because I love hip hop, and I love Vince Staples, Kendrick Lamar, and they have these stories about being from bad areas and overcoming that. I wanted to write that in my books because it's relatable. And Guillermo is more of a hometown film for me because Akron, Ohio, and I wanted to show a kid who had bad decisions he made as a youth who can learn from that and overcome it. I feel like it gives kids hope they can, change and be better than just one thing, I believe.
I love that. That's such a great answer and such a great message to be giving the kids who are picking up your books. So one wild tie-in to all of these stories, or a lot of these stories here. So we have Dana, Tashie, and Abigail stories. All have arts like smack in the middle of them, right? Like Tashie, we didn't really dig into it, but like your main character is like super into literature and wants to be an English major, yes,
Yeah.
in the story. So we have like writing, theater. In Abigail's book, there's a whole storyline about her wanting to be a filmmaker. I'm so curious, what do you think make the arts a great setting for great love stories? Because I feel like we see that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like expressing yourself through the arts is like such a creative way to like let out your feelings. And like in my book, for example, like Karina writes poetry a lot. And like it helps her really work through like her emotions. Like if she can't really put it into like real words, at least she can like make metaphors and similes and like all of that and kind of express how she feels in that way. And like I feel like it's also a great way to connect with other people because I think that the arts really bring people together and like it's something that can be shared with one another. And I really love that aspect about it. So I feel like it sets a really great stage for romance in that way because you can find a shared passion in things like Aces into music. Like it's just like understanding that there's things that you love and are ambitious and passionate about and how you can kind of relate that to each other, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it a little bit earlier about spending so much time with people when you're working on a musical or a movie. I know when I watched Hamilton for the first time, the Hamilton that came out on DVD with the original cast, I remember going, I wonder who was dating who. Like someone was dating someone. Like, I was so like obsessed with like pairing up the people because like when you're just spending so much time together, love happens in those types of environments where you're together for hours and hours and hours. And I mean, we can become obsessed with like stars dating. They film a movie together, and then later on they're a couple. So I just thought it was a perfect setting for a romance. So
I love that so much. Seeing something that's like well, I mean, it is part of your world, but like for me, it happens all the time where like I see like two bookstores that are across the street from one another, and I'm like, oh, I wonder, do they go on a monthly paintball fight? Like, do they not get along with one another? What's the story? I always want like the secret drama of what's going on there.
we think alike, Eric.
Yeah, it's like, I'm always thinking about what the drama might be.
I even think that about gas stations when they're across the street from each other. I'm like, how does this work? Like, how do these people get along?
Good point.
Oh, I love the potential behind the scenes drama. Yes, absolutely. We have a couple of questions floating in. Let me jump into a couple of these while we're chatting here. People are saying they want to see the fan fiction, which I love right now. So we talked a bit about tropes and the tropes that we like to explore in our writing. What trope would you want to explore next that you maybe haven't dug into yet?
I would love to do star-crossed lovers.
Ooh.
Because I think that there's so much potential for angst. And I think it would be really interesting. But I don't think I'm ready to pull it off yet. But I really want to one day. Like I feel like it would just go so hard. So
probably enemies to lovers, because it's just so fun. Enemies to lovers is so fun. I love the banter. I just think that would be fun.
I love the banter and enemies to lovers because like it's always loaded with something else, when they're like shooting the jab at each other. Someone's like bluffing a little bit inside. Like there's always something going on there.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree. Ancient lovers. Yeah, I agree with that one too. Just to have some.
And I think you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just saying. I think you, as the reader, when you're reading the enemies to lovers, you're like, why don't you guys just, get together? So it's fun to like have to like.
I really love sometimes when you're reading enemies to lovers, and you're like, I understand why you can't be together. And you're just like, oh, like this is so much.
Yeah.
Like when the obstacles are like, you get it. You're like, I get why you can't, but like,
And Tashie, is that like your one of your critique partners like writes like really intense enemies to lovers stories? Doesn't Chloe? You guys write together? Right?
Yeah. Where Chloe's in the living room right now. We have like a bunch of a little writing retreat going on right now. We have Chloe Gong, Raquel Marie, and Zoe Hanamakuta. They're just sitting in my living room. So that's like fun. But like it's really cool because like I feel like she writes like such like very intense, like angsty romance, and I'm sitting here in like my little fluffy romance corner. I'm like, it's like have you ever seen like that meme where it's like the pink house and the black house?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's just like a really pretty pink, like fluffy, sparkly house, and then there's like this goth, like black house. And I feel like that's just me and Chloe.
Oh, that's amazing. What about everyone else? Who do you share your writing with, and how do they make it stronger as you're writing?
I still write on Wattpad sometimes, and
Oh wow.
I have like a really rounded group of readers, and some are young and they're really blunt. They don't hold back at all, so that helps me shape up things that don't work for them or they work for them. So my readers for sure on Wattpad.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, awesome.
That's right. The teen readers don't pull any punches. That's all right.
I feel like all of my friends are like YA readers. So
great. Yeah, I have a nice group of friends who are also YA readers who are my beta readers too. And I have a great agent who just loves to chime in early so I can send like chapters instead of a whole book, which is always nice.
Oh, yeah, he's good for that.
You work with Yue, right?
Uva.
Yeah, Uva.
Yes. Cinder, yeah.
I've
so he's great about chiming in early. I remember I sent him 2 chapters of Roman and Jewel, and he totally got me on the right track because his note was like, did you even write this? Like, it's the worst thing I've ever read. And Uva can be really harsh, but
He can be.
in that, it got me on a new path. And I did a page 1 rewrite. And I love what I came up with versus I love his honesty. That's what I want from a beta reader. I don't want anyone to stroke my ego. Just tell me exactly what you think. And that's how my agent is. He's pretty blunt.
Yeah. Uva's very, yeah, he's good for that, yeah.
That's awesome. I've met him at conferences before, and he's super honest with like everybody.
Yeah.
I love his energy.
I love his tweets. They're always so funny, his tweets.
Oh yeah.
So what's so we talked about like our the dream next tropes, but what's your next book that you can potentially talk about, like, or if you're allowed to talk about it?
I have a book that I'm not allowed to talk about, but it is a love story. So I'm excited about that. And it is kind of a retelling too. So I can't wait for that announcement to come out so I can share it with everyone.
So much of being a writer is these secrets that you can't tell anybody except like 30 people in your Twitter DMs that you've never met, right? Like that's
right. I can talk about my next book. Thankfully, it is announced. Hello.
He left.
What was it?
Okay.
Okay. I was saying I can talk about my next book because that one is announced. So we're all good on that. My next book is called is called A Show for Two, and it's another YA contemporary, and it's hate to love, and it has a celebrity romance. And it's based on when Tom Holland went undercover at my high school during my senior year. So,
oh my God.
Cool.
Yeah. He was pretending to be a student for a while, and it was crazy. And I was like, this would make such a good books like idea. And like, I was like, you know what? Like, I was there. Like, it's not like I'm just writing, so I was like, okay. So it's inspired by that. So the love interest is an up and coming celebrity, and it's basically just like a love story to New York, and I'm super excited about it.
That sounds wonderful. Does that come out next year?
Yeah, it comes out on May 10th, 2022.
Awesome.
Yay! Congrats.
Save the date.
What about you, Whitney? What are you kicking around next?
I really can't say right now. It's under wraps.
Oh, okay. It's all right. I love all the secrets.
But you know what's sad about the secrets is by the time we get to share it, we're not excited about it anymore. We're like, yeah, this happened last year.
This book 2 years ago. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
My new one that comes out next year that isn't announced is a YA musical book. And that'll be, I think we get to talk about it in another week. So we'll see. Who knows? I don't know.
With the
It's
band?
published.
I'm excited for all the 2022 covers.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. So someone asked in the questions, what were some of your favorite young adult books that you read this year? And I love this question because whenever anyone asks me, like, oh, what's your favorite book from this year? I suddenly don't remember any of the books that I've read. Like, there's a whole bunch here. I don't remember any of them. So I'm curious. What about you? What were some of your favorite reads this year?
I'm gonna plug my roommate. I have to plug my roommate and say Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. It comes out in November. It is the sequel to her first book, These Violent Delights, and it's A+. Also have to plug Gear Breakers by Zoe Hanamakuta, which was also A+. I would definitely recommend those two. Mwah.
I'm very excited for Gear Breakers. Like, in anything that gives me
her like second cover, and I was like, oh my god, this is so beautiful.
Anything that's like vague Pacific Rim vibes, like I need to have it immediately. And like there's like the cover has.
I haven't seen Pacific Rim yet. I know it was always gonna force me into it one of these days. I know.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's like sacrilegious. Sacrilegious.
I'm gonna be honest. My kid just started school after being out of school for 17 months. Because we're in California, and I haven't read anything. I've just been like trying to navigate my way through this insane situation of my kid being home all the time. So Monday was the first time she was gone for like 6 hours straight, and I was just like, oh, I didn't even know what to do with myself. It was just like quiet in the house and peaceful. So I'm gonna definitely catch up on a lot of reading this year. So
I read Christina Forrest's debut, Be Where You Are, and that was really good. I liked how they were both Black. It wasn't just about being Black. It was a love story about other things, and that was very important to me to read and see a little Black joy and Black just life, you know.
And don't judge me. I'm like looking at the books on my shelf, and I'm like, which one of these did I read this year? And I feel like I this year I mostly read like adult romantic comedies. That was kind of like where I was.
Me too.
Because I just needed, I don't know, I needed something really fluffy to get me through a hard year, and I developed this reputation around my neighborhood where I show up at a random bar and I sit down and read a whole rom-com at the bar with like chicken wings. And now everyone in these different bars around town.
I kind of love that. Like that's like
it's cool.
That's a vibe.
Awesome. Yeah, it's fun.
It's like instead of going for brunches, we need to all just go to a bar, eat chicken wings, and read our little books.
Is it an ebook though? How do you?
Yeah, I highly recommend Dial A for Aunties, and the Bromance Book Club made me really happy. All these like alpha men who are reading romantic comedies to we lost someone.
We did.
To become better men. It was so good. Oh wait, is Dana still here? I see like a
3 of us.
Oh no.
I'm still here.
3 of us.
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
All right.
That's okay.
Someone here said, how do you choose
There
what
we go.
it is you want to read? Oh, this is such a good question. How do you choose what it is you want to read? Is it the cover? Is it the back cover? So like the jacket copy? Do reviews play a part? Yeah. How do you pick your books?
I like can no longer look at any reviews for anything. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to see it. But I feel like my books mostly come from recommendations or like if I really like the author, like the author's personality. I know like a lot of times they're like authors don't sell books. I'm like, I get it, but like we're in publishing, so I feel like for us, authors do sell books. Like for the limited like 500 of us that are like here. But I feel like, like I feel like authors 100% sell books for me. Like I will be like, oh my God, like this author is so funny. I like have to support them. I have to go buy their book. Like, so I feel like that's like a huge thing for me.
Yeah, and you know what? And to chime in on that, now I'm remembering books that I read this year, and that's YA romances I read this year. And one of them was Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler, which is just like this wonderful YA love
I
triangle.
like the sunglasses with like the guy and the girl. So
my God. And she's one of those people that when I think about like how I discover books the most often, a lot of the times
as soon as you said her name, I was like, I have to update my website.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, she'll come for you. You haven't updated your website. But yeah, like she has that great website, LGBTQ Reads, and the newsletters that she does and blog posts that she writes on BuzzFeed. And I feel like a lot of my YA discoverability in terms of the books I read come from her. Yeah, so like, book reviews and jacket copy and stuff like that's great, but also just Dahlia is the person that I find stuff from a lot. And then Lauren Morrill's It's Kind of a Cheesy Love Story was a big favorite of mine this year. It's a rom-com about a girl who was born inside a pizza place and is famous for it and then ends up working there. And it's very, very, very funny.
Oh, I got it. It's a pun. Cheesy.
Cheesy love story, yes. But yeah, so back to discovering books and how you pick them up. Like, what, Dana, Whitney, how do you do you judge a book by its
I can be really cheesy. I'm such a spiritual person, so I literally can go into like a bookstore and like pray to God and be like, guide me to the book that I need right now. And I know that sounds really cheesy. I also, my daughter has some reading comprehension problems, and so we pick books for her that are also movies, so that we can compare and sort of like get her excited about the book. And so I do that too myself. Like if it's a movie, I'm more excited to read it just because I love seeing the different forms of art and how they, made it into a movie and what's different, what's better. So that's probably my two ways, like letting the universe guide me and also what's been turned into a film.
I love that tactic. I did that with when the adaptation of the Prom musical was on Netflix. Like I went and I bought Sandra Mitchell's YA adaptation of it, the novel, and like I read the novel and then I watched the movie, and it was a fun experience.
I usually Google things like new books coming out, and I look at covers first, titles, and then the plot. That helps me simple. So Google.
Yeah, blurbs will get me sometimes too. Like I know there's a lot of mixed thoughts on blurbs, but like if it's a author who I really love and I see their name on that they like the book, sometimes that's enough to make me get it.
Yeah, that helps too.
Recently, I feel like I've been taking a lot of recommendations from like TikTok. Like I'll be scrolling through and they'll get me. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like that does sound good. I'll buy it.
Nice. I'm still trying to figure out TikTok. I got it. I've made a couple little videos, but I don't know. Mostly I just want to shoot videos of my kid, and I don't think that's like the most interesting thing for TikTok.
I think for TikTok, you should do what you want to do because I feel like that's what's most authentic, to be honest. Okay. And I feel like they can tell when you're not being authentic on there.
All right, I'll remember that. That's
so,
good.
You want to shoot videos of your kid? Shoot videos of your kid.
Good advice. Good advice.
Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, does anyone have a favorite young adult fantasy trope? That's an interesting question.
Yes. I love the soulmate trope where like you're all like, I also love when it's like subverted, where it's like you're soulmates but you don't want to be soulmates and you're like, get me out of here. So I really love that idea of like being meant for each other but having to kind of navigate that, because it's not really a choice, because like it's just like premeditate. Like I like that, and I feel like that's like a fantasy trope, because obviously that doesn't work in a contemporary. So.
I mean, is this a trope, the chosen one trope? I feel like that's a fantasy trope. Yes, no.
Absolutely.
I do love that idea of like the chosen one, because it's so absurd, but I just love it.
I don't read fantasy. So I don't want.
I like the trope of the like the powerless one, you know, in the fantasy novels where like everyone has a superpower, everyone has a gift, and there's a person that doesn't. There's this great book by Patrick Ness called "The Rest of Us Just Live Here." I don't know if you've read it, but it's like this. It's like set at a place where it's like it's set at like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer style high school, right? And like people have superpowers, and there's like vampire hunters and all these people, and it's about the kids who don't, and they're just kind of like stuck in the middle of all of it, like the kids who are walking up and down the hallway, trying to live their lives. And it's like the funniest book, because like, what do you do when your school is getting like set on fire by the superheroes all the time, and you're just trying to get to math class and like.
That's funny.
Like,
Yeah, I love that. I feel like this is also pretty fantasy, but I love the wizened old mentor trope. Like we were just rewatching the Hunger Games, and I love Haymitch. Like he's just like, oh my god, like, and not like, I love that like person who's like grouchy, but then they get like a soft spot for the main characters, and they're like, all right, like I guess I'm adopting you.
I think we have one more question here. What do we have here? What are your thoughts on secret romance in a novel? What are your thoughts on the secret romance trope? Well, that's interesting. You have to keep your love story a secret.
Well, what is the secret romance trope? Oh.
It's like when you're trying.
I think Counting Down with You technically has it. I think Counting Down with You technically has it because she doesn't tell her parents, but also that's because she would die. So I think it's just like, I'm just gonna mind my business. But I feel like if it has good reasons, like it makes sense, as long as it's not like infidelity or something like that. Like I'm all for it.
Right. Or like VC Andrews' secret love that's not okay. But
okay.
God, I remember a few years ago when Flowers in the Attic got made into that Lifetime movie. When I got made into the Lifetime movie,
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Not yet. I'm gonna watch it.
Don't watch it.
Okay, I'm gonna spoil it. Don't worry. But like, there's a hilarious re-release of the book that they made into like a paperback, and they made the paperback look like a YA contemporary romance, and the characters are like kissing, and it's like that's Did the art director not know what the book's about?
Right, like you missed the point.
That's so funny.
I feel judged.
They're filming a miniseries for Flowers in the Attic right now, so it's coming back.
I will watch
that book. I read the first two, and she wrote it in 2 weeks. I'm just so in awe of that. 2 weeks of that. It's amazing. 2 weeks, and she did it. She revised in one night. Imagine that.
Oh my goodness.
Could you do that?
Yeah, well,
amazing.
That's an awesome.
If I was like hard pressed and like my life was at stake, I probably could. But like I have to get severe pressure to do it.
It's so layered and complex that it just in 2 weeks. I feel bad.
If I'm allowed to plot beforehand, I think I could.
But did she revise in one night though? That's also a big thing.
I think I could do that too. Like if I get to plan beforehand, I think I could.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, yeah.
Well, speaking of drafting that fast and all that, what is your writing process like when it comes to sitting down to work on your books?
I wrote Counting Down with You in 30 days. So
wow.
mine is just literally Yeah. I literally just like, I remember I was taking, because I was in my junior year of college. So I was taking 6 classes and like interning 3 days a week and like just doing, I was like, all right, listen, like I know I just got to sit down for a few hours every day and just write. Like, I don't know if it's going to be at like 2 a.m. or if it's going to be at like 6 a.m. Like whatever it is, like I just need to sit down and write. So I think it was just like having like a really strict, like, time management schedule that allowed me to write, but like I feel like, like it was fun. Like it was like a challenge. Like it was like during April Camp NaNoWriMo. So I was like, you know what? We can try. We can do our best.
That's
I
awesome.
think for me, it depends on how much I like the story, how much I'm invested into it. Like last January, I wrote a book, like 2 months, adult romance, and I was just so sucked into the story, the spice, the dynamics. So it depends. This one right here took me maybe about a year or two to write that one. So it takes time.
Yeah, I agree with Whitney. I think if you really love the story, then you become sort of obsessed, right? In a way that other people can understand. If you're not an author, you don't understand it. Sometimes I'll stare off into space and my daughter's like, Mom, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm working. She's like, really? But I would say it takes me about 6 weeks to sort of plot everything out. And then it takes me a year to write it after that. So,
Was anyone else writing like last year when we were all in this odd time together? Because like
I wrote a short.
You wrote a
sorry.
short.
I wrote a show for 2 last year in July. And it was like, I was like, wow, we're just sitting inside doing nothing. This is a lot. But so I feel like in a way it like did lead to like a good writing atmosphere for me. Cause I was like, well, might as well like do something, be productive. And like, I think I wrote a show for 2 in like 3 weeks. And I was like, all right, that was my task for the summer. I'm done. I'm tapping out.
That's amazing. But I love that about being a writer. Don't you guys feel like you have this incredible sense of accomplishment? And so you're like, oh, I'm taking like 2 months off. I feel like other people can't do that. There's such a sense of accomplishment when you finish drafting.
Literally. Yes. For sure.
Oh, we got a couple more questions in here while we've been chatting too. What do we have here? What takes a book from good to unputdownable, in your opinion? Ooh, that's a really good question.
Last year I read You by Carolyn Capnes, and the character he was a little much, I'll admit, but he was just it was fascinating how he was so unhinged, but he didn't know it, but he was so into that girl, and it was just, I don't know, the character is for real, for sure.
I think for me, it's the stakes. Yeah, I think for me, it's the stakes. Because if I'm like really into the stakes, I'm like, I need to know what happens at the end. So I need to keep reading. Like I can't put this down because I need to know. So like if the stakes are like really good, or like I'm really invested in the character and I'm like, I need to know what is going to happen to you. Like if you can make me care about the character's goals and stuff, I feel like then it becomes unputdownable.
So true. I'm going to agree with Tashie on that one for sure. When you're just like, I know I need to go to sleep, but I'm going to stay up anyway. You know, you've got something good on your hands. So, especially as a parent, Eric, I'm sure you can relate when you're like, I really need to go to sleep.
So little time, you know, like
I love that feeling also, like when you're like reading a book and as you're reading it, you're like, wait, I don't want to read this anymore because I want to be able to savor this because it's so good. Like if I finish this, it's over. I can never reread this again. Like, I
love that feeling.
Yeah.
Or
do you ever get mad at a book? Have you ever like thrown a book across the room? Because I have, but not in a mean way, but where you're just like so frustrated with the character, where you're just like, I can't even right now.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Us authors are so dramatic, so
we are.
We have someone asking, let's go back to craft again really quick. Are you a plotter when you're writing, or are you a pantser when you're writing?
I'm an intensive plotter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I cannot write a book without knowing everything that happened. Because I have a problem where, like, if I'm pantsing or whatever, I'm like, what happens next? And then I'll sit there for like 2 hours being like, wait, I don't know. And then I feel like that like will get me out of the momentum. And I hate that. Like, I'd rather be full momentum, like going ahead. And I feel like I can only do that if I've already plotted the book and I don't have to worry about like what comes next. How is this going to work into the arc? Like, how is all this going to wrap up? So I definitely prefer to plot.
Yeah, I think I loosely plot because there's this weird thing that happens to me. If I know every single thing that happens in a story, I lose interest and I can't even explain it. So I loosely plot, leaving like some room to play around. And I feel like I have like a supernatural experience because I get in the story and I feel like I can't really understand it until I get in there and I'm looking around at the characters and I'm like, okay, that works, that doesn't work. So I feel like I'm both. I feel like I'm both. So
What's the other one? You said plotter and
pantser.
What's that mean exactly?
So you like sit down and you just write the book.
Basically by like the pinch of your seat.
Usually I get an idea and I like it and I'll start writing it and then I'll apply as I go along. But then I'll take it and then toward the middle or in the beginning I'll sit down and just try to make bullet points of what's going to happen to the whole story. So both, I guess.
Yeah.
Nice. So, I know we're going to wrap up soon. So like, is there anything you want to make sure you leave the audience with today? Like about books, about your writing, like something I didn't ask?
It looks like we just got Abigail on.
Yeah.
I'm like to see Abigail. Excellent. Well, I guess while we're waiting, like, is there something you want to leave us with? Hey, yeah, there she is.
I missed everything, didn't I? I'm like an hour late. I'm so sorry. I thought we were starting at 1 for my time, and I missed it all. I'm so sorry. It's nice to see everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, we're happy to see you. So Abigail, before this wrap up, tell everybody about you. Tell them about your book.
Well, I have really bad, apparently, timing. So I write contemporary YA. My recent release is Every Other Weekend, which is this one right here, which is a dual point of view contemporary about two teens from broken families who meet when they're forced to spend every other weekend together in the same rundown Philadelphia apartment building visiting their dads. And it's a story about, I would say it's a funny, complicated, messy, heartbreaking, and heart-healing story of first love. And there are lots of movie quotes and fighting and kissing and characters you love to hate and characters you love and more kissing. And I hope it makes readers laugh. It'll probably make you cry, but I guarantee you'll be smiling by the end of it. So that's my book.
Yay! And there's some Philly love in it. So
yes. Yeah, that's where I'm from. So yeah.
I was just asking everybody, like, what is like one thing they want to make sure they leave the audience with here.
I would say support your local indie bookstores. Pre-order all of our books at your local indie bookstores. Not pre-order, I guess. Now it's 2020. Yes, order, buy, purchase.
She's so cute.
Yes, no, absolutely. Someone in the chat said, Gritty loves it about Abigail's book. Yes. Yeah, definitely support those indie bookstores. Pick up everyone's books as they're coming out.
Plug your book real quick, just like.
Also, read whatever you want. Read what makes you happy.
Exactly.
Reading can be such a wonderful escape, or it doesn't have to just be one thing. You can read books that just make you happy if that's what you want to do. So read whatever you would like.
Right.
I love that. And if you have kids, make your kids read because it's so important.
Yeah.
It's true.
I changed my daughter's bedtime to an hour earlier, but you can stay up if you're reading, and it
Oh.
works. So it's
Cool.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess thank you everyone for joining us today. This was
Thanks
a
for
lot of
having
fun.
me.
Yeah, great time chatting with everyone about your books. Yeah, where can everyone find all of you online?
I'm at Tashie Bhuiyan on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Mostly TikTok.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, mostly Instagram.
I'm on Instagram mostly too at Wheaty, WHEADEE, mostly there. So.
I'm on Instagram. It's Dana L. Davis. So
Awesome. Yeah, you can all just Google us too. We'll all pop up.
Yeah, it looks like somebody put all of our web pages in the chat and all my socials.
Oh yeah, there we go. All in the chat there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope everybody has a great week full of good books. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, guys.
Bye.